Australian Open Day 1 recap. Raducanu joins Norrie Fery in round 2. That's a wrap for Day 1 at the 2026 Australian Open. Head to the BBC's tennis page for reports, reaction, and analysis from today's matches, and we'll be back with you from 7 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time for live coverage of the second day's action in Melbourne. It was a crazy day out there. Record crowds, and I think it's a great addition having a Sunday start. It's good for the tournament. The Brits got some wins. The Fery upset. It's always a danger playing someone who's come through qualifying because they're match toughened. A great fight back from Norrie. His commitment to win matches is never in doubt. You always know he's always going to fight for the very last point, and that was a great performance. Raducanu had a rough start but won 10 out the last 11 games and started seeing the ball well, and that's all you can hope for. From a British perspective, it's been fantastic. Day 1 of the first Grand Slam of the season? Check. In the men's singles, world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz came through his tournament opener against Australia's Adam Walton in straight sets. 2025 finalist Alexander Zverev came from a set down to beat Canada's Gabriel Diallo in 4 sets, while fellow seeds Alexander Bublik, Francis Tiafoe, Francisco Cerundolo, and Corentin Moutet all advanced without dropping a set. Italy's 20th seed Flavio Cobolli was the only men's seed to fall, with British qualifier Arthur Furry triumphing 7-6, 7-1, 6-4, 6-1. Fellow Brit Cameron Norrie also booked his spot in round 2, although he had to come through a 5-set battle with France's Benjamin Bonzi. In the women's singles, 2-time champion and top seed Aryna Sabalenka beat wildcard Tiansoa Rikoto Manga Raducanu in straight sets. Raducanu also came through in straight sets, but there was no fairy tale for 45-year-old Venus Williams, who lost to Olga Danilovic 6-7, 5-7, 6-3, 6-4. More from Carlos Alcaraz. On his preseason, I just stay at home. I used to practice the whole morning, start at 9 and finish at 2 or 3. The whole morning is about working out physically and on the court as well. Then after that, I took almost every afternoon off to do whatever I want, stay with family or friends, play board games and chilling at home. It's a better way to recharge the batteries, staying at home with the people you love. But as I said, preseason is always tough, and then I just put on a great workout. Australian Open Day 1 recap. Raducanu joins Norrie Fery in round 2. Melbourne woke beneath a blazing sky, the kind that makes the court shimmer and the air hum before a ball is even struck. Day 1 of the Australian Open is always part celebration, part survival test, a first glimpse of ambition under unforgiving sun. For British tennis, it unfolded like a promising overture, with Raducanu, Cameron Norrie, and Arthur Furry all stepping through the opening door and into the second round. The heat, the hope, the beginning. There is something ceremonial about the first day of a Grand Slam. Fresh shoes squeak. Balls snap crisply off strings. Dreams still feel intact. On this opening Monday, Melbourne Park buzzed with that unique mix of optimism and nerves, the sense that anything could happen, but only for those prepared to endure. For Britain's contingent, the day was less about fireworks and more about resilience. 3 very different players, 3 very different journeys, yet all bound by the same objective: survive and advance. Raducanu, calm in the furnace. Raducanu walked onto court carrying the weight that seems to follow her everywhere: expectation, memory, and the lingering echo of a breakthrough that once stunned the sport. But Day 1 was not about history. It was about presence. From the first rally, Raducanu looked settled, moving with an economy that suggested clarity rather than caution. Her timing sharpened as the match wore on, her groundstrokes cutting through the heat like clean brushstrokes on a bright canvas. There were moments of resistance, moments when the match tightened and demanded patience rather than flair. She answered with composure. This was not a performance chasing headlines. It was a statement of control. Raducanu adjusted to conditions, absorbed pressure, and chose her moments carefully. When the final point arrived, it felt less like an explosion and more like a confirmation. She belonged here, again, and she was ready for the long road ahead. As she left the court, there was no grand celebration, just a quiet nod, as if to say the work had only just begun. Norrie, the art of endurance. Cameron Norrie's tennis has never been about shortcuts. If Raducanu's game is about rhythm and precision, Norrie's is about accumulation, point by point, game by game, inch by inch. His Day 1 match reflected that identity perfectly. Long rallies unfolded under the sun, grinding exchanges that tested lungs and legs alike. Norrie dug in, absorbing pace, redirecting angles, forcing his opponent to play one more ball, then one more still. There's a particular confidence in Norrie's demeanor, a steadiness that doesn't waver even when momentum shifts. When challenged, he leaned into the grind. When openings appeared, he took them without drama. It wasn't flashy, but it was effective, an exercise in patience rewarded. By the end, the scoreboard told a simple story. Norrie threw to round 2. But the deeper narrative was about durability. In Melbourne, that trait often matters more than brilliance. Fery, youth steps forward. Arthur Fery's presence on day 1 carried a different energy altogether, the anticipation of what might be. Still early in his Grand Slam journey, Fery played with the freedom of someone discovering the stage rather than fearing it. There were nerves, yes, but also boldness. He struck his shots with intent, trusting his instincts even when the moment grew heavy. Each hold of serve seemed to build belief. Each break opportunity hinted at a future beginning to take shape. What stood out most was Fery's refusal to shrink. On a day when the spotlight can overwhelm newcomers, he leaned into it, competing point for point with maturity beyond his years. When victory finally arrived, it felt symbolic, a step not just into round 2, but into broader conversation. For British tennis, Fery's win was a reminder that the next chapter is already being written. A collective step forward. Taken together, the trio's success gave the day a sense of cohesion. No single result dominated headlines, yet the collective message was clear. Preparation matters, adaptability matters, and the ability to manage conditions can define a campaign before it truly begins. Raducanu's poise, Norrie's persistence, and Fery's fearlessness each told a different story, but all ended on the same page. As the sun dipped and shadows stretched across Melbourne Park, the court slowly emptied. Day 1 had delivered its verdict. The first hurdles were cleared, the nerves settled, the tournament rhythm established. Round 2 awaited,